Okay. Well, welcome everyone to the ALS Association Education Hour. We are joined today by Amy Samson-Burke, who is a yoga instructor and I think certified yoga professional, and works at Mind Body Solutions, which we refer to quite often. So they do adaptive yoga classes, and they have been online now for some time. And so we invited her to walk us through what it is to do adaptive yoga. So a lot of this is going to, or the beginning of this, I think, Amy may have something else to say, is going to be like a yoga class, and then she'll take questions and answer take questions and give us a little background about how yoga can really benefit folks living with ALS and their caregivers. So take it away, Amy.
All right, I would be happy to. Thanks, Anne. Again, my name is Amy Samson-Burke. I am the Director of Programs at a nonprofit here in the Minneapolis area called Mind Body Solutions. Been here for a while, 15 years, but also just retired from a career as a physical therapist. So I've been in the medical community, I've been in the yoga community for a long time. And I have to say, I like the yoga community a whole lot more, but anyway, not that I don't like the people, I love the people. Being a healthcare provider is hard work. For those of you who are caregivers, know that my heart is with you also, because we're all in this together. We're all working together here. So thank you for joining us today. I'm happy to be here sharing what I love with you, which is adaptive yoga. At Mind Body Solutions, we teach a little bit differently than what might be what you might think of as a standard yoga class. We tend to teach yoga, sometimes we call it from the inside out. So we spend a lot of time talking about what's going on with the inner body, if you will, as opposed to the outer body, you know, moving from the outer body where you're seeing the movement, recognizing that we have a richness within the body that isn't always addressed in a typical yoga class. And that's one of the ways that the way we teach makes this type of yoga particularly applicable for those who are living with ALS, because quite frankly, you can participate in this yoga practice today with me, whether or not you can physically bring your arm over your head. So we'll be talking about inner body sensations. We'll be doing some outer body movement. And finding a way to combine the two so that everybody, whether you're living with ALS, whether you're a caretaker, and wherever you are on the spectrum of ability today, you can do this practice. So when I think about doing a yoga practice and doing any kind of mind-body practice, I go back to the words of one of my first teachers, William, and he would say, just for today. You know, do your practice just for today, because I think sometimes when you think of taking on a new practice of any sort, it can become overwhelming. And so just for today, we're going to do a little bit of yoga together. And maybe tomorrow you'll say, just for today, I'm just going to sit and watch my breath for a couple of minutes. But just for today, I don't want to take on anything else. I want to be here today and think about, just doing your practice just for today. And so recognizing the inner body experience is just as powerful, if not more so, than the outer body experience. Let's go ahead and begin. So sitting up in the chair or the bed or wherever you happen to be, you can certainly do this lying down, and that's perfectly fine too. Just starting to pay attention to where your body is in space. So we usually start with a little bit of seated meditation, and we'll go ahead and take just a minute or two for some quiet time here. So for those who are sitting up, I want you to notice the sensation of your feet on the floor, or the foot pedals. Wherever you happen to be, placing the hands on your lap. They can be palms face down, they could be palms face up, whatever feels right for you today. And again, just simply noticing that sensation of contact. So we slowly start moving into our practice, maybe simply by softening the eyes. And if it feels good to close the eyes, go ahead and do that. Otherwise, just soften the eyes and gently direct the gaze downward. So there's a softness that comes with the eyes, and now let that spread to the face. Softening the jaw, softening the cheeks, even softening the scalp. Letting the body rest here as we bring ourselves into this practice, making a little bit of a separation from the rest of our day, allowing us to land here. Simply noticing where your breath is right now, not trying to change it or modify it. And then slowly blinking the eyes back open if they were closed, or just bringing the gaze up if it was lowered. Nice exhale out. Okay, so I invite you to turn the palms up if you can, and if that's difficult for you, just go ahead and let the palms rest right where they are. Take a glance down at the palms, and what I want to think about first as we begin today is moving from a sensation of relief. So we spend so much of our time during our day moving from a sense of gripping. You know, we have to grip to transfer, we have to grip to get up or be moved, or to simply to get through our day. And in our yoga practice, I don't want you to move that way. I want you to move from a sense of relief. So let's take a little exercise here to just notice what a sense of relief could feel like. So take a glance down at one of your palms here, and spread your fingers really wide. Okay, and if you're going to do both at the same time, that's fine. Spread them really wide, whether they spread or not, just do it anyway. So spreading them really wide, and notice what's happening in the rest of your body. Notice what's happening up the chain, up the elbow, the shoulder, maybe the neck is tightening. Now relax, because I don't want you doing that. That's the way I don't want you to practice today, okay? Just so you know, that's the way you go through a whole lot of your life. So let's take a step back from that. Come back down to our palms. Let the fingers naturally curl as they do when we're not doing anything with them. And now I want you to think about, imagine you've got kind of a warm spinning ball of energy in your palms. All right, so just feel the sensation of warmth in the palms, and then let that warmth begin to spread out through your fingers. And as that warmth begins to spread out through the fingers and the thumb, let them gently begin to spread any amount. And if they don't spread at all, that's okay. Continue to let the sensation percolate from the palms out through the fingertips, out through the thumb. Find your breath here. Make sure you're not holding your breath. Notice that when we concentrate, we hold our breath. Oh, for Pete's sake, let's try and keep breathing today. And so we end up with a palm that looks like this. All right, we end up with a palm that looks spread. And so we had the palm that spread softly, and we had the palm that spread vigorously. And guess what? They look the same. So we've achieved, if you will, we've gotten to the same endpoint. And one time we worked really, really hard to get there. And the other time we started from a sense of relief. So that's how I want to practice today. I want to start our practice from this sense of relief. All right, so let's bring the hands back. In fact, let's set them down, face down or palm down, if you can comfortably do that. Again, if that's not working for you, that's fine. Keep the hands right where they are. So go back and conjure up that sensation again of the spreading of the palm. Just gently spreading out through your fingers. Now, this is a real inner body invitation here. Now I want you to connect that sensation of spreading through the palm, connect that to the sole of the foot. And so in yoga, we learn to make connections where we really weren't sure there were any. And so let this spreading of the palm be reflected and the spreading of the soul. And that is a very inner body instruction that allows everyone at the table of yoga. From that, let the fingers expand just a little bit, whether they move or not. And the same thing with the toes, as if your toes were growing and getting longer and spreading a little bit. Maybe they spread, maybe they don't. But have the inner awareness to connect the sensation in the palms with the sensations in the soles of the feet. Now, gently keeping the sensation, begin to press down through your palms. So pressing into the thighs here. And as you press into the thighs, begin to press into the floor with the feet. And again, you may be pressing physically, or you may be pressing more in the inner body. Either way, as my teacher, Matthew Sanford, says, if you can't do it anyway. So pressing down, whether it's the awareness on the inner body that's pressing down or physicality, pressing down, and now let the chest begin to rise. And then release and just relax for a second. So one of the things we like to teach in yoga is we like to make connections in the body. We like to observe without judgment, which is the hardest thing you'll ever do, because we're all wonderful about judging ourselves pretty much all the time. And we also like to get bigger in space. And so one of the things that we're starting to do now, and we'll do in this next little activity, is we're going to move in opposite directions. So we're moving in multiple directions, or in this case, 2 directions at once. So let's bring our hands back to the thighs where they were. Spread those palms like we did, from a sense of relief, not from a sense of gripping. Connect that to the soles. We're just going to keep layering in here. And at any time, if you need to stop, feel free to stop. So pressing down through the hands, pressing down through the feet. Now, as you press down, again, let the sternum, the breastbone, let that rise a little bit. And then let it all relax. And notice there's a little bit of a drop, isn't there, when you relax? Let's do it again. Press down through the thighs, through the feet, press down through the hands. Let the sternum begin to rise. Good. And release. And now let's make this into a little bit of a rhythm. So let it drop back, let everything relax, and maybe even drop back toward the back of your chair if that works. And then pressing down. Start coming forward, bringing that chest up into what we call a little bit of a cat-cow. That's it. And then let it go. So let's find a little bit of rhythm in the spine here, pressing through the hands and the feet, rocking over the sitting bones, lifting up through the sternum as the body begins to warm up, and then slowly letting everything drop down. And one more time, pressing down. Lifting up. All right. And then relax. So we've got that sensation of what we call the cat-cow. So it's kind of it's a forward and backward of the spine, isn't it? So now we're starting to move in multiple planes. But now we're going to take it and we're going to refine that just a little bit, which is particularly great. Again, if you're having a day where you're not moving much, this is a really nice way to refine and listen even more deeply to the experience in your body as we refine this cat-cow a little bit. So let's get into our cat-cow position that we were using. Now, instead of a cat-cow, which is, rocking back and coming forward, we're going to make that movement a little bit smaller by doing what we playfully call a kitty calf. So we've gone from cat-cow, we're going to downsize this to a kitty calf. And instead of moving the whole spine, I'm going to just move my sternum here, my breastbone. So right here. So rather than doing this big movement, right now we're going to do a little movement. And in fact, you might only do this on the inner body. So if you're finding that the cat-cow is more movement than you feel that you can do today, then let's try the kitty calf. So sitting up again, go back to spreading those palms, go back to spreading the soles of the feet. So we're making connections in the body, press down and lift that chest. Now right here in the sternum, we're going to just let it sink back a hair and then lift it up. And see if you can find a little bit of rhythm right here in the sternum as we begin to introduce the sensation of rhythm and movement into the body without a whole lot of grandiose movement. And if you're having a day where you need the grandiose movement and the big outer body movement, more power to you. But today we're going to go a little more subtle here. So little bits of movement here. Tiny bits. And then release and just come back to the center. Be in the center. You know, sometimes we're in such a hurry to go on to what's next in a yoga class or any kind of other class that we don't actually give our body that time it needs to process what we've done. And so I invite you, between poses, we're going to sit for a few breaths and notice what you feel in the body. Do you feel parts of the body maybe you weren't feeling before you came to class? Are you frustrated because you want to move more and you thought we'd be standing on our head today? I hope that's not what you thought, but anyway, notice what you feel. Notice what percolates up. Notice that you might be saying, I want to do that real yoga, you know, all that kind of stuff. But the truth is that the subtlety in yoga is where its beauty lies. And so not being attached to some of these big giant poses is part of learning the subtlety and the essence of yoga. All right, so one more thing before we move on. We're going to add even more to this. We're just keep adding layers. And as I said, if at any time you need to just stay back where we were, stay back, okay? All right, so once again, spread those palms. Connect that to the soles of the feet. Little press down through the thighs here, little press down through the feet. What happens? We lift the chest, don't we? Now, this time when you lift the chest, I want you to take a breath as if your lungs were shaped like a Y. And you're going to breathe up the Y from the space between your knees. Inhale up, all the way out to the ends, tips of your shoulders, and then exhale and let it come back down like it's a zipper. Okay, so breathing up the Y, nice big inhale. Spread wide across your collarbones out to the tips of your shoulders, exhaling down the Y. And if your breath doesn't match mine, no worries. Just having an awareness of a spreading of the collarbones out to the tips of the shoulders and dropping back down. Now this time when you come up, so pressing through the feet, lifting the chest, having that awareness come up the spine, out to the tips of the shoulders. Now take the shoulder blades down the back body a little bit. Down the back body, so you're lengthening the neck just a little bit here. And then let it all relax. And kind of go back to that posture that we spend most of our day in, a little bit slumped. And let's do that one more time, pressing down through the feet. Letting that awareness come up the body, wide across the collarbones. Now take those shoulder blades down the back body here. Find your breath, and then slowly release. Let's get a little bit more active, but if you're finding this is a day when your body does not want to get more active, you can continue practicing exactly what we just did. Working with the breath, working with the subtle sensation of lift and the subtle sensation of grounding. If you'd like to keep moving, then you can keep moving with me, and we're going to start adding a little bit of twisting. So hands to your thighs again, and let's just start gliding our hands on our thighs. Now I'm going to make this fairly pronounced because I want you to be able to see it on the screen, seeing my hands going across my black pants, but know that your own movement can be much smaller or not at all. You can be doing it on the inner body rather than on the outer body. So I'm doing it mostly so you can see it, a little more easily. Now, as you do this, start to involve the spine and see if you can let the spine twist a little bit. Maybe the head wants to come along for a little bit of a movement too. You know, the way we feed our spines is by moving. And so that's why I like to get the spine moving. We were in one plane and now we're rotating. around the midline. So we're gradually waking up the spine, energizing the body that way. And if you want to hold it and it feels good to hold it one way, do that. Coming back to the center, maybe just moving through the center. And even start to feel this at the pelvis, letting the pelvis glide a little bit. So we get a little bit of movement of the pelvis here. Nice. And then come back to the center and be in the center. Let that sensation percolate through the body. Notice your desire to want to know what's next. It's all that observation without judgment. And now let's shake it up. Let's move our hips a little bit in whatever way works for you. I'm kind of doing a hula with my hips. Maybe it's rocking from side to side. Maybe there's a diagonal going on in there, but beginning to move the hips. Just noticing where the body is at today. And then if it feels good, let the hips settle. And then bring it up to your ribs and start doing a little hula at the ribs. Just like you got a hula hoop around the ribs. I can guarantee you, had you not come to class today, you would have not done a hula with your ribs. So this is a good thing. So go the other way. If nothing else, if you hate this class, know that you did a little hula with the ribs. And so that's good. You moved in a plane you probably hadn't planned to. All right, come down and let's move the shoulders and get the whole body moving in whatever way feels good for you. I like to move my hands along with my shoulders. You can let them be down by your sides, whatever feels good. And then make sure you go the other way too. So you're moving in both directions. You know, so one of the things that we like to talk about in yoga, I got my COVID booster today and I'm starting to feel it. I hadn't felt it until now. See, they talk about it, all those places waking up. All right, let's come back down to the center. One of the things we like to talk about in yoga is a little saying which I find very powerful, and it's work where you must, release where you can. And a pretty well-known yoga teacher said that, I'm sure many years back. But I find that's really effective for me because sometimes when I'm doing a yoga pose, I find my entire body is gripping and working, when the truth is I really need to just be putting my arm out to the side. And so today, as we're doing this, notice is my tongue pressed up against the roof of my mouth as I lift my arm in the air? And then ask yourself, is it really helping the yoga practice that I'm gripping my teeth and my tongue? It's probably not. So find those little pockets in your body where you can relax a little bit, even as you're doing a more active yoga pose. So I'm thinking, I had all sorts of different things to do, but I think we're going to take a little Trichanasana right now, just because it's fun. So Trichanasana is triangle pose, which is a wonderful, beautiful pose in yoga where the body goes into different triangles. That sounds very complex, but we're going to break it down into parts. So if you comfortably can, see if you can bring your legs a little wider apart. And if it doesn't work for you to bring your legs wide apart, that's fine. But if you're comfortable, bring them pretty wide apart, because Trichanasana is a pose where your legs are wide. I won't go quite as wide, but if you want to go wider than this, then feel free to do that. So once again, feel the feet on the floor here. Press down, because in any this is a standing pose, although we'll take it seated today. In any standing pose, you need to be very rooted and very grounded before you put movement on top. So really grounding down through those feet again. As you do that, feel the lift in the chest like we did before. Now ground down through your sitting bones too. So feel the sitting bones on the chair or the bed or wherever you happen to be right now. Take a good breath, filling not only the ribs here, but the back of the body as much as you comfortably can. And if breathing is particularly difficult today, then fill that area with awareness. Doesn't have to be a deep breath. So take a moment or two to do that. Now, imagine you have a band around your hips. All right, so let's say you've got a big kind of rubber band or a band of fabric around your hips. Now imagine you've got another band around the base of the ribs. Stack the bands. So stack this band on top of this band. In other words, if you're feeling off to the side, to your capacity, bring yourself to the center. Now imagine a band around your shoulders, stack that band on top of the other bands, and then another band that's right above your head, and stack that band on top of the other bands. Now, we've made this sort of, this cylindrical vessel, if you will, working to find a sensation of midline in the body here. As we go off the midline, I'm going to invite you to stack the bands again to keep finding that midline, because Trichanasana or triangle pose is an asymmetrical pose. So let's lean over to one side. Now, if you have something to lean on here, you can take one elbow and lean on the armrest of a chair. Otherwise, don't lean to the point where you feel like you're unstable. So I'm just going to lean a little bit. So to your capacity, just lean over a little bit. Now notice what happens when your body, when you lean over, you kind of collapse on this side and you lengthen on that side, don't you? But now in this position, I want you to stack the bands. So stack this band, your rib band, on top of your other band. In other words, straighten out. So we went from kind of the I'm a little teapot leaning over into a position where we're stacking the bands even though we're off center. And now remember when we were breathing up the Y and we took our breath out to our shoulder tips? Take your breath out to that shoulder that you're leaning away from. So inhale and open the chest, almost like you're going to turn your chest toward the ceiling, but not quite. Keep those bands stacked, and if you wish, you can add the arm out to the side. And if it really feels good, you're welcome to turn the head as long as you remain very safe doing this. Ground down through those feet, stack the bands, turn the chest, and look up at the hand. And then release the head back to the center. Bring the arm back to the center and give yourself a little bit of support as you come back to the center. And now you know what I'm going to say. Be in the center. Rest here for a couple of breaths. What do you notice about the body? Does it feel asymmetrical? Maybe a little bit, maybe it's aching on one side of the body, then one side more than the other. And recognize that we spend a lot of our life out of alignment. But it's interesting, and one of the gifts that yoga brings to us is that we can begin to study that and feel that sensation of relief as we come back into a more symmetrical position. So of course, we have to go the other way. So reground those feet if they were feeling a little ungrounded. Let's go ahead and ground our hands here too, so we can lengthen the spine. Keeping it nice and long. So remember that feeling of stacking the bands, just like we did earlier. And this time we're going to lean to the other side. And of course we get that little, that little bend in the body as we do that. So here now, I want you to stack the bands again. So slowly come into that position where the underside of the body is almost equidistant or as long as the other side of the body. Because one of the things we emphasize is this side body lengthening in this pose. Now remember the breathing up the Y. So let's breathe up the Y and lengthen all the way out to the tip of the shoulder. And maybe there's even a little bit of a turn toward the ceiling, just a hair. And then I see some people are adding the arm already. Yes, let's go ahead and add the arm. And the arm's at about 90 degrees. Sometimes we want to bring it up, but actually Trichanasana, it's about 90 degrees out from our body. And if you wish to turn the head, you're welcome to turn the head. Have you thought about your feet? What are your feet doing? Are you holding your breath? Are you pressing your tongue against the roof of the mouth? I say yes, because that's what I'm doing. So let's let that soften just a little bit. Let's let the arm come on back down. And then ease yourself back into the center. And then be in the center. Rest here. Let the body notice what's going on in there. And let's just kind of walk our legs back to the center. Come back to that sensation of midline here. Just soften the eyes for a couple breaths here as we land back in the center. Good. Okay. So I'm going to introduce this kind of fun little concept to you that one of my yoga teachers talks about. And it's the sensation of the cave, C-A-V-E, cave of the heart. So, we think about, people in yoga are always telling you to go to your heart center and heart openers and all that stuff, which is beautiful. But this is another kind of an interesting little take on it. So, our heart, of course, lies just slightly to the left of our midline. And yogis like to think that there's, within the body, on the inner body, again, there's a reflection of the heart just to the center of the right. And they call that the cave of the heart. And so as we're sitting here and just grounding for the next few breaths, I want you to notice the sensation not only of the heart slightly to the left of the midline, but also almost a reflection of the heart or the cave of the heart just to the right of the midline. So drawing your attention right to the heart center on both sides of the body here. Bring awareness to and rest in the cave of the heart here. Few soft breaths. Let the inside of the mouth be soft. Now allow the sitting bones to be heavy. Ground down through the feet. Lift the sternum just a little bit, but don't lose your sitting bones here. Expand now from this midline, this center line, out to the edges of the shoulder, or out to the edges of the shoulders, the tips of the shoulders. Take your breath all the way through the body. Now take your awareness and draw it to the back side of the body, feeling the gentle movement of the ribs on the back side of the body. Now, keeping that sensation, let's bring the hands down to the sides. Palms facing forward if you comfortably can. All right. As if somebody was holding on to your wrists here, gently traction the wrists away from the body. And as you do that, press down through your sitting bones and lift your chest. And then slowly bring the hands back and let everything relax. And then let's move it again. Let's start with a little bit of rhythm again, bringing it out. Now lift the chest, but not at the expense of forgetting the feet and the sitting bones. Keep them down as we lift. And let's come on back. And then again, lifting and come on back. And if it's easier for you to do this with one hand and then the other, then certainly you don't need to do both hands at the same time. Let's let the hands drop down now and hang on to your chair or wherever you've got a little bit of anchoring. Let's take the opposite arm and begin to bring it over the head. Any amount, elbow can be bent or straight, whatever feels good to you. Now, once it's up here again, press down through that same leg that of the arm that's up in the air. Take that other hand, as long as you feel safe, and press down right in the crease of the hip and see if you can free up that arm to go a little bit higher. or shoulder or whatever's lifting today. And then slowly let it all back down. Good. And let's take the same thing on the other side. So bringing the arm up any amount. Today, my arm is getting sore from that shot, so I'm only going to go up this high. So bringing it up, I'm going to take my other hand and put my hand right in the crease there. And as I ground down, maybe I can free up that arm a little bit. In fact, that actually helped a lot. So I'm going to free up that arm and go a little higher. Meet your body where it's at every day without judgment. Boy, is that hard. And then release and let everything come on back down. Good. Yeah, we're moving. I'm feeling pretty warmed up. Are you folks feeling reasonably warmed up? Okay, let's go ahead and take a little back bend. I'm feeling warm for sure. So hopefully you are too. So we've been doing a lot with opening the chest and feeling that breath across the front of the body. We've also done Trichanasana, where we open up the chest to the side. Now let's go ahead and just take a little bit of a back bend. So if you're sitting in a chair where you can have some back support, I would encourage you to find that back support right now. Okay. So everybody feeling as supported as you can. Hopefully your feet are still on the floor or on the foot pedals. And let's go ahead and bring our hands down by the sides again. All right. So you're anchoring yourself as much as you can. Now a back bend, we think of a back bend as this, this arch through the chest. But my yoga teacher, William, who I keep referencing because he's been so wise and such a great teacher for me, he will say, when you want to lift your chest, sometimes that physical act of lifting the chest is impossible. So he will always say, not sinking is lifting. So even if your chest doesn't move, try not to let it sink. And that in itself is your back bend. That's the chest lift. So let's start again, hands down by the sides, pressing down through the feet. We always have to set as much base as possible to support any kind of back bend. And if it feels better to put your hands here, if you feel more stable, that's not a bad place to put them either. So find where you feel most stable. In fact, I think I'm going to go here today. So pressing down with hands and feet or holding on, whichever you decide to do. Let's go ahead and draw our attention to the sitting bones. So make sure those sitting bones are nice and solid on whatever you happen to be sitting on here. Let's go ahead and take a little bit of a cat-cow just so we get the spine moving, just like we did, or the kitty-calf, which we did earlier. Just working. And then come back to a still point. And now let's press down through the hands, press down through the feet, take everything we've learned today, lift that sternum, open all the way to the points, the end points of the shoulders, coming back. And if you're over a chair, you might even lean back just a little bit over that, not too much. You can take your head back, but often I like to keep my head level. I'll leave it up to you. And then release and come back to the center. Back bends are really stimulating, so we want to be careful with them. Don't do back bends before you go to bed. Just telling you that they're very energizing to the nervous system. So keep it on the down low before you go take a nap or before you go to bed. One more time, let's press down. So pressing down through your hands, pressing down through your feet, finding that support in the back, and then lifting up. And remember, not sinking is lifting. So it doesn't have to be a physical lift. It can be an inner body lift. And then slowly release and come on back to the center. Good. And then just move it around a little bit. Let the spine do anything it wants here. We've been moving in mostly in this plane, but we've also moved off to the side. And sometimes you just need to shake it up a little bit and just notice, oh, wow, maybe I'm moving 1% easier than I was at the beginning of the hour, or maybe 10%, or maybe some things have have woken up, that we're sleeping, and you're starting to feel some new movement in the body. Hopefully that's good. And so just moving around a little bit. All right. You can't see my feet, but I'm going to bring my feet together. So I'm bringing my feet together and I'm letting my knees go apart. So I'm kind of in this, what we call a bound angle pose. So my feet are doing this, but not up on my chair, on the floor, and my knees are dropping out to the side. So I have this diamond shaped pattern here of my lower extremities. Lean back into the chair. So you're feeling very, very supported here. And then if you can, take your hands and mirror this position with your hands. So placing the thumbs together and the fingers together. And if that's not working for you, just simply let the elbows drop out to the side. So again, you're mirroring the lower extremities with your upper extremities. Once again, draw your attention to the palms. Let it feel let yourself feel a little bit of warmth there. Connect that to the sensation of the soles of the feet again, like we were before. Let the elbows hang from the shoulders. Let the elbows be heavy, almost as if they had just a little tiny bit of weight hanging from them. And then let the body fill with breath, again, almost as if you were breathing from the space between your knees and it was coming up and expanding the chest, any amount. The breath doesn't have to be any deeper than it always is. It can be, right what's most natural for you today. Soften the eyes. Let the body rest here. Now draw your attention deep into the bowl of the pelvis. So Baddha Konasana, or bound angle pose, is a particularly nice pose for digestion. So we'll take the next few breaths, softening in the belly as we breathe. So as we breathe in, we might notice the belly expanding toward the front of the room and just gently recoiling toward the spine with the exhalation. So for the next few breaths, just pay attention to that. And again, don't worry about a deep breath, whatever rate at which you're breathing today is right for you. But bring that attention deep down into the bowl of the pelvis. Important area that we don't always talk about. What's going on in the pelvis, the pelvic floor, the diaphragm. Being grateful for the breath here. Does anybody notice their palms warming up? My palms are now heating up with this. Couple more breaths here. And then release. Now you can stay in this position if you're very comfortable, or you can come back to the center. We'll take our final pose, and this is generally everybody's favorite pose. It's called Shavasana, or final relaxation pose. So just get comfortable wherever you are. And sometimes if you've got a table in front of you, sometimes people like to put their head down on a desk or a table. That feels really good. Otherwise, lean back in your chair. I like to take a pillow or a bolster, put it across my lap, just because it helps my shoulders relax a little bit. So get in whatever position feels pretty comfortable for you right now. I'll give you a few seconds to do that. So we always end a class with Shavasana, letting the body, feel where it's been. So I invite you again to either close the eyes or simply soften the eyes and direct your gaze downward. Let that gentle hum of the body come forward. We actually moved in a lot of planes today. We moved the body, both the inner body and the outer body. Let that now begin to settle. Let the breath settle in the body, no manipulation at this point. Let go of the effort of the class. Let go of any judgment. Let go of anything you need to do after this and allow the body to receive the gift of this pose. Softening again the inside of the mouth, especially the tongue. The teeth may part a little bit. The lips are usually softly together. But if they part, that's okay too. Soften the space around the eyes and the temples. And let the cheeks deflate. Release the skin behind the ears, letting it cascade down the sides of the neck, all the way out to the tips of the shoulders. And continuing, allowing the skin to cascade, almost like it was just flowing from the shoulders down through the elbows, down through the wrists and the fingers. Let the skin on the front of the torso and the back of the torso begin releasing toward your chair, almost as if it was just kind of unfurling toward your chair. Letting it round along the hips and the pelvis. And again, beginning to just cascade gently down the thighs to the knees. And the knees to the ankles. And out through the feet. Let the body rest here. Nowhere to go, nothing to do right now. And then slowly begin to blink the eyes open, letting the light back in, the sounds back in, becoming a little more aware of your surroundings. And then if you wish, if you can bring the hands together in the midline. Otherwise, leave them right where they are, just noticing again the sensation of the opening of the palms. And we always end a yoga class with the word namaste. So I'll say namaste. The spirit in me bows to the spirit in you. Thank you for sharing in this practice. It's always a treat to come and work with your group.